My name is Jamie Grindle, and this is my capstone presentation video on how to use technology in high school math classrooms of teachers uncomfortable or unfamiliar with technology. I am a candidate for a master's in the instructional technology at Kennesaw State University. I am in my 6th year of teaching, all of which have been at Creekview High School, and I currently teach Algebra 2 and Statistical Reasoning. I am the Algebra 2 facilitator, and I have been for the past year and a half. This has given me a leadership role at Creekview over the Algebra 2 content area. Creekview is primarily a bring-your-own-device school. We do have cell phone connectivity issues within the school. There is limited cell phone service, and the Wi-Fi can be spotty at best sometimes. We do have laptop carts available for departments. There are about 4 or 5 laptop carts per department that teachers are able to schedule to use. For the makeup of our student body, we are 87% white students, 2% black students, 2% multiracial students, 8% Hispanic students, and 1% Asian. We have 9% of our students that are labeled as students with disability. 12% of our students are eligible for free and reduced lunch. And we have 1% of our students that are English language learners. Over the last few years, Creekview High School has had a lot of changes in administration, but through all the changes, one thing has remained consistent: increased technology integration within the classroom. Creekview is made up of teachers with varying technology skills and comfortability. Technology is unfortunately only used in about half of the math classrooms, which doesn't give students equal opportunity to be successful and engaged across the math content areas. Creekview holds technology trainings that are mandatory for all teachers, but it is an overwhelming amount of information that is rarely related to math. Since this is, so many of the math teachers choose not to use any of the tools that we've been trained on because they are uncomfortable with them or unfamiliar. For my capstone, I want to coach those teachers who use little to no technology, get comfortable with using a few technology tools within their classroom to help increase student engagement and success by coaching them to use the tools that can directly relate to what they're teaching and what would work best for their classrooms. The timeline and objectives that I had anticipated were to, in January of 2022, have 4 participating teachers choose 1 or 2 technology tools that they would like to learn about to implement into their classrooms. February of 2022, the 4 participating teachers would start to practice and explore the tools that they chose. March of 2022, the participating teachers will have created and implemented at least 1 lesson using the tools that they chose. In April of 2022, have the participating teachers create at least 3 lessons or activities per month involving the technology tools that they learned. And in May 2022, have the participating teachers create and implement at least 3 lessons and activities per month using technology tools that they learned. The evaluation plan was to survey the participating teachers throughout the course of the capstone, use self-assessments for the teachers throughout the course of the capstone, and talk about the discussions of effectiveness of the tools and the opinion of the tools that they worked with at the end of the capstone. The first activity within this capstone was to create a pre-assessment survey on how comfortable and confident the teachers felt with using technology in their classrooms. While there were 4 specific teachers I wanted to work with, only 3 of them agreed to work with me, so I focused on them throughout this project. I worked with 1 Algebra 1 teacher and 2 Algebra 2 teachers. Both of the Algebra 2 teachers were also in my professional learning community, so it made it very easy to meet with them and spend time with them throughout this project. During my first meeting with the teachers, I discussed integrating technology into our classrooms. I presented them with a handout of different technology resources that we could learn about. But since I was pregnant, it was not feasible for me to teach them about 3 separate technology tools. So we had to come together and agree on one tool that I could teach them all. We all decided that Nearpod would be the best for everyone. Although I was unable to introduce multiple tools to each teacher, I was still able to establish a teaching partnership amongst my peers throughout this coaching process. Throughout the partnership, we were able to individualize the Nearpod lessons so that it worked best for their classroom needs. In February, I met with the teachers to talk about the lessons that they could easily transform into a Nearpod lesson. I walked through multiple lessons with each teacher to see which ones would work best for their classes. I found that there was a similar lesson in Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 covering the quadratic formula. I decided to create a Nearpod lesson using this topic. I taught myself how to use the interactive video questions on Nearpod so I could share this information with the teachers. And when I presented them with the lesson, they were overwhelmed with the amount of information and the lesson itself. I taught each of them how to implement the Nearpod lesson from a teacher standpoint and a student standpoint. We then worked one-on-one and made small adjustments to the lesson to best fit their classes. Even though my original goal was to work with 4 teachers in my department who shy away from integrating technology into their classrooms, my focus moved only to 3 since the 4th did not want to participate in the Capstone. This did prove to be beneficial when it became time for me to begin my maternity leave. I ended up taking a month off of the Capstone project since I had given birth, but my focus after this was to coach and encourage the integration of Nearpod into the teachers' instructional practices for the remainder of the semester. While I was unable to be at school physically, I was still able to meet with the teachers through Microsoft Teams. My goal was to have the teachers create and use Nearpod lessons more than once, but I had to adjust this goal to the implementation of at least 1 Nearpod lesson by the end of the year. The teachers were given the opportunity to observe me implement a Nearpod lesson in my classroom, but only 2 of them were able to attend. And they actually ended up observing my long-term sub giving the lesson, that from which I understand it went flawlessly. After the Algebra 2 teacher observed the Nearpod lesson in my classroom, she asked me to help teach her Nearpod features such as embedding them into our learning management system and utilizing the collaboration feature. She was getting very frustrated with the tool. It was making it hard for her to want to use it in her classroom. I created a screencast walking through many of the features of Nearpod and how they work. I also created a quick guide PDF for her to reference the most popular features such as video check-in questions, quizzes, and embedding documents. This caused me to reflect on the importance of checking in with the teachers as they learn Nearpod on their own. It made me realize that as a coach, we need to be there the entire time during the coaching experience, even whenever we are not directly coaching the teachers. As the teachers learned more about Nearpod and how it worked, I met with them to create lessons they could use within their classrooms. I did meet with the Algebra 1 teacher one-on-one, and she expressed that she had an interest in the time to climb assessment gaming feature in Nearpod. She had explored different pre-created lessons, but struggled to find anything that fit her students' learning needs. We spent time creating a time to climb assessment, and she was shocked at how easy it was to create one that suited her instructional needs. I often worked with the Algebra 2 teachers simultaneously, since they were both in my PLC, and it was easy for us to meet. They had not used Nearpod in their classes previously, and knowing this, I needed them to become comfortable with the technology first. So I started with the basics. How does it work? I wanted to create an open atmosphere with clear communication between all of us about this tool. I found this to be the best way to avoid scaring any of the teachers away from incorporating Nearpod into their classrooms. Since Nearpod doesn't do math symbols very well, I did teach them a workaround using PowerPoint, and we could embed it into the Nearpod, and this ended up being very beneficial since both the Algebra 2 teachers were familiar and comfortable with PowerPoint. I then showed them the Draw It feature on Nearpod, and they both immediately noted how this would be great for mathematical modeling. After the initial meeting, I checked in with them periodically and modeled how Nearpod lessons should look as they implemented them. And after modeling the lessons for the teachers, each of them remarked on how easy it would be to recognize increased student engagement and participation with the student Nearpod lessons. After successfully modeling the lessons for the teachers, I had high hopes for the implementation within their own classrooms. Fortunately, when I observed the Algebra 2 teacher implementing her Nearpod, it went over surprisingly smooth. There was a little trouble getting the students focused on the activity and getting them logged in. But once they were logged in, the lesson went well. The students were engaged and participating. But I did notice that they started to get bored and didn't really like the games that were embedded into the Nearpod. I think this is because these games are more made to capture the attention of younger aged audiences. I did notice in Algebra 1 when I looked at her videos that the students were very excited to be doing something rather than just the normal note taking they were used to. I do believe if the game feature had been more age appropriate, the Algebra 2 students would have been more engaged. As we approach the end of the year, I focused heavily on looking at the student data from the Nearpod lessons that the teachers implemented, as well as the teachers' personal growth from the data that I collected from the self-assessment surveys. We looked at the self-assessment survey data together, and we discussed how we could move forward. Each teacher appreciated the coaching process, but one of the Algebra 2 teachers did not think she would use Nearpod regularly. From the self-assessment, all 3 teachers grew with their comfortability using technology within the classroom, and 2 of the 3 were open to learning another tool in the future. I do not take the credit myself, though. These teachers worked hard on their Nearpod lessons and incorporated them into their own classrooms and their own instruction on their own. I was able to coach them to introduce them to Nearpod, teach them how to use Nearpod, and to help them build camaraderie amongst peers as they learned how to use Nearpod. During our final conversations, I knew that the bring your own device would be an issue, and teachers did struggle to find laptop carts with enough laptops for their students, so they were required to use their own devices or to share devices. And I also spoke with the teachers, and the bring your own device technology within their classrooms. They still faced connectivity issues with not getting a signal or connecting to the Wi-Fi, but they also recognized many of their students would be using social media or playing games on their phones rather than doing the lessons. Unfortunately, when I talked about learner autonomy with the teachers, they recognized that most of their students did not have autonomy or take control of their own learning. Our students need to be taught this so they can become more responsible for their own learning. Follow-up for the Capstone will be difficult as 2 of the 3 teachers have moved on to other schools, and the 3rd teacher has shown no interest in other technology tools except Nearpod at this time. I have told her, though, whenever she is ready, I am more than happy to coach her on other tools. Upon reflection, I noticed that flexibility was key. My original goal and my actual goal varied greatly due to maternity leave, and I had to change my plans and assumptions going from 4 teachers to 3 teachers, and it was all about being flexible. The explanation of the goal and vision really helped to get everyone on the same page. It gave insight to the resources available to everyone and how to best utilize what we had. And then communication. There were setbacks due to communication on my part. At first, I was not where I should have been with the communication, and it really did put us back a little bit. But as soon as I caught that, I was able to get better at it and make sure I communicated more thoroughly with those teachers. So overall, this capstone project was definitely a success. Video, presentation, and capstone project were all created by me, Jamie Grindle. Thank you.